The chandeliers glimmered like frozen stars, their golden light spilling across marble floors and polished crystal. The King family estate was buzzing. Senators, CEOs, heirs, and socialites filled the ballroom, their laughter sharp and practiced. It was supposed to be the perfect engagement party. But not for Isabella Torres. She stood at the edge of the crowd, her simple cream dress falling softly against her frame, her dark hair held back by a silver clip. No diamonds, no designer label, no visible wealth. Just quiet grace, the kind that made the loudest people nervous. The whispers had already started. She looks so plain. Poor girl's out of her depth. She'll be gone by Christmas. But Isabella didn't flinch. She simply held her champagne glass, untouched, and scanned the glittering crowd, every insult rolling off her like rain. Victoria King, the groom's mother, was the first to strike. 55, elegant, and ruthless. Her emerald gown sparkled under the chandelier as she approached, her smile sharp as glass. "Sweetheart," she began, her voice sweet enough to rot teeth, "that dress, it's rather humble. Did you borrow it?" Laughter rippled around them. A man nearby muttered, "Looks like she wandered in from a bus stop." Isabella's fingers tightened slightly on her glass, but she didn't look away. Her silence made Victoria falter. Then another guest, a cousin with pearls and poison in her tone, smiled thinly. "Oh, darling, you must tell us where you shop. I could use a laugh." Isabella set her glass down. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm and smooth. "I shop where people don't need to buy their confidence." The air changed. The cousin's smile froze, the laughter thinned. But Victoria only leaned closer, her smirk widening. "Confidence is nice, dear," she said. "But it doesn't buy class." From across the room, Nathaniel King, Isabella's fiancé, laughed weakly with his friends, pretending not to hear. He looked polished, handsome, everything a headline groom should be. But when his mother humiliated Isabella, he didn't move. Not an inch. The whispers grew louder. "She's after his money. She doesn't belong here." And through it all, Isabella stood still, poised, quiet, unreadable. A man in a gray suit, Adrian Cole, the King family's lawyer, joined the mockery. "If you truly loved Nathan, you'd bring something to the table. A name, maybe. But Torres? Doesn't ring any bells." Laughter again. Isabella's eyes met his. "You seem very sure of that," she said softly. He scoffed. "Oh, I know a gold digger when I see one." Her lips curved in the faintest smile. "Then you must see a lot of yourself." Gasps. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat, then the laughter returned, nervous this time, unsure who'd really won. And still, Nathaniel said nothing. A young heir, eager to impress, lifted a fork and sneered, "Hey Isabella, do you even know what this is for?" She took one from the table, twirled it once in her fingers, and set it down. "I know enough to eat without making a scene." The boy looked away, his cheeks burning. Victoria's voice rose again. "Dear, maybe you should sit. You'll be less noticeable." "I'm fine where I am," Isabella replied evenly. The older woman's smile faltered. The crowd laughed nervously again. But beneath Isabella's calm surface, something was shifting. She had always been taught never to shout. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, "You don't need to prove yourself, Bella. Just be still, and they'll reveal who they are." And tonight, they were doing just that. The humiliation went on until midnight. But Isabella didn't leave. Not until Victoria raised her glass and announced, "To my son's future, and a bride who will learn her place." That was when Isabella smiled, a small, knowing curve of her lips. Because she already had. The wedding came fast, the King estate turned into a sea of white roses, gold-trimmed tables, and cameras flashing like lightning. It was less a union, more a performance. Guests whispered behind their programs. "She looks nervous. She's really going through with it." Nathaniel stood at the altar, charming and rehearsed. Victoria glowed in her peacock blue gown. Isabella walked down the aisle in an ivory dress, no jewels, no veil. Simple. Stunning. Unapologetically herself. But before the vows began, Victoria rose from her seat, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "Before my son agrees to this, tell us, Isabella, what fortune do you bring? What does your family own?" The laughter came immediately. "She's nothing. She's marrying up. Someone check if her bank account even has a comma." Nathaniel looked at his mother, then at Isabella, and said nothing. Her eyes didn't leave his. "You really won't stop them?" she asked quietly. He swallowed, looked away. "Maybe they're right." Something broke then. Not loudly. Just a small, invisible crack that spread across the air between them. The crowd laughed harder, phones out now, recording. #GoldDiggerWedding, someone whispered. Isabella reached for the microphone meant for the priest. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm, dangerously calm. "Thank you all for showing me exactly who you are," she said. "This wedding ends here." The room froze. Nathaniel's face went pale. "What are you doing? You're embarrassing me." "No," she said softly. "I'm freeing myself." Victoria shot to her feet. "Without us, you're nothing. That deal your father's company wants, Torres Global, it belongs to us. Without the King name, you have no future." That was when Isabella smiled, the same quiet, devastating smile she'd worn at the party. She reached into her clutch and tapped her phone once. Behind her, the massive LED screen that had been showing the wedding logo flickered to black, then lit up with a statement in bold white letters. Torres Global Tech officially terminates its $950 million contract with King Group. Effective immediately. Gasps. Chaos. Phones dropped. Adrian Cole's glass shattered on the floor. Victoria clutched her chest, her voice trembling. What have you done?" Nathaniel stared at Isabella like he was seeing her for the first time. You're Torres Global?" She looked at him, calm, unwavering. "I'm Isabella Torres, CEO." The room erupted. People whispered, "She owns it. She was the deal. Oh my God." Victoria stumbled forward, her voice cracking. "It was a mistake. We didn't mean, please, restore the contract." Adrian forced a smile, sweat beading on his forehead. "We can renegotiate. We can fix this." Nathaniel grabbed her hand, desperation in his eyes. "Isabella, please. I love you." She pulled her hand free, her expression unreadable. "You loved the image of yourself reflected in me," she said softly. "But I stopped reflecting that the moment you let them mock me." A woman in a red gown tried to save face, raising her glass shakily. "To the bride who thought she could play in our world and lost." Isabella turned, her gaze level. "Some games aren't worth winning." The woman sat down. Phones buzzed everywhere. Headlines were already forming. Bride cancels $950 million deal at wedding, King Empire collapses. Victoria fell to her knees, whispering, "Please, don't do this." Isabella didn't reply. She looked at the crowd, the people who'd laughed, whispered, judged, and simply said, "Respect can't be bought. You had a chance to earn it." Then she turned, walking calmly toward the exit. Nathaniel's voice broke behind her. "No one will ever love you. You'll die alone with your money." She stopped for a moment, her back still to him. Then she took a small photo from her clutch, a picture of her as a child, standing beside her father. She looked down at it, smiled faintly, and whispered, "I was never alone." Then she walked out. The cameras followed her all the way to the waiting limo. Beside it stood a tall man in a dark suit, James Harper, CEO of Harper Dynamics, the King family's fiercest rival. He opened the door for her, his voice calm and low. "Miss Torres. We've signed the new deal. And, if you'll let me, I'd like to take you to dinner, somewhere quiet. Away from the noise." She hesitated, then smiled, a real one this time. "Dinner sounds nice." As the limo pulled away, chaos erupted behind them. The King Group's stock plummeted, sponsors fled, investors pulled out. Within days, the empire that had mocked her crumbled. Victoria's name disappeared from every social list. Adrian lost his position. Nathaniel was left with nothing but headlines and shame. But Isabella didn't celebrate. She didn't need to. Her victory wasn't loud, it was in her calm, in her silence, in knowing she'd stood her ground without lowering herself. Later, as the city lights blurred past the window, James looked at her and said quietly, "You handled them with more grace than they deserved." She smiled faintly, watching the night sky. "Grace isn't for them," she said. "It's for me." He reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. Somewhere behind them, the King mansion stood empty, a monument to arrogance. But ahead, the skyline glowed, towers of glass and steel built by people who had once underestimated her. Isabella leaned back, her reflection soft in the window. Her father's words echoed again, "You don't need to prove anything, Bella. Just be." And she finally believed it. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever been judged, doubted, or underestimated, remember, you don't need their approval to rise. Like this video, subscribe to Aunt's Story, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded, silence can be power, and grace can be the loudest revenge.